Hello and welcome. I want to tell you about 5 remarkable people who fell from great heights and survived. A falling object gains speeds until it reaches a terminal velocity of around 190 kilometers per hour or 53 meters a second. They say it isn't the fall that will kill you, but the sudden stop. The first person was Nicholas Alkemade, who was an English tail gunner in the Royal Air Force during World War II. He fell from 18,000 feet without a parachute when abandoning his burning Avro Lancaster bomber over Germany. On the night of the 24th of March 1944, 21-year-old Alkemade was one of 7 crew members returning from a 300-bomber raid on Berlin. They were attacked by a German Junkers Ju-88 night fighter. Their aircraft caught fire, and so did Nicholas's parachute. Preferring to die quickly, he jumped. His fall was broken by pine trees and a soft snow cover on the ground. Was he lucky? He suffered only a sprained leg. Nicholas was subsequently captured and interviewed by the Gestapo, who were initially suspicious of his claim to have fallen without a parachute until the wreckage of the aircraft was examined. Our second survivor is Eugene Magee. He was an American airman during World War II who survived a 22,000-foot fall from his damaged B-17 Flying Fortress. He featured in the Smithsonian magazine as one of the 10 most amazing survival stories of World War II. On the 3rd of January 1943, his Flying Fortress was on a daylight bombing run over Saint-Nazaire, France. Magee left his ball turret when it became inoperative after being damaged by German flak, and he discovered his parachute had been torn and rendered useless. Another flak hit then blew off a section of the right wing, causing the aircraft to enter a deadly spin. Magee, in the process of moving from the bomb bay to the radio room, blacked out from lack of oxygen because of the high altitude and was miraculously thrown clear of the aircraft. He fell over 4 miles before crashing through the glass roof of the Saint-Nazaire railroad station. The glass roof shattered, mitigating the force of Magee's impact. Rescuers found him on the floor of the station. He was taken as a prisoner of war and given medical treatment by his captors. He had 28 shrapnel wounds, in addition to broken bones and a nearly severed right arm. Magee was liberated in May 1945 and received the Air Medal for meritorious conduct and the Purple Heart. Our third lucky person was Russian Ivan Mikhailovich Chisov. He was a Soviet Air Force lieutenant who survived a fall of approximately 23,000 feet. He was a navigator on an Aleutian bomber when in January 1942, Luftwaffe fighters attacked, forcing him to bail out. With the air battle still raging around him, Chisov intentionally did not open his parachute, since he feared that he would be an easy target for an angry German pilot while he was dangling from his parachute harness. He planned to drop below the level of the battle and open his chute when he was out of sight of the fighters. Due to the thin atmosphere of that altitude, however, he lost consciousness and was unable to pull the ripcord. Chisov struck the edge of a snowy ravine, then slid, rolled and ploughed his way to the bottom. The aerial battle had been seen by Cavalry Commander General Pavel Belov. When Chisov was seen falling to the ground, soldiers rushed to the site and were surprised to find him alive, still wearing his unopened parachute. He regained consciousness a short time later, suffering severe injuries, including spinal injuries and a broken pelvis. He was operated on, and for a month his condition was considered critical. Despite his injuries, he was able to fly again 3 months later. Chisov flew over 70 combat missions during the course of his career. Our fourth lucky person was a woman, Juliane Koepcke. As a teenager in 1971, she was the sole survivor of the Lanza Flight 508 plane crash, then survived 10 days alone in the Amazon rainforest. She survived a fall of 9,843 feet, still strapped in her seat. She was about to graduate from high school, and her father reluctantly booked her and her mother on a Lanza flight. This airline had a poor reputation. The Lockheed L-188 Electra was struck by lightning during a severe thunderstorm and broke up in mid-air, disintegrating 10,500 feet above the ground. Koepcke, still strapped onto her seat, survived the fall to earth, suffering a broken collarbone and a gash to her left leg and to her right arm. She said, "I was definitely strapped in the airplane seat when I fell. It must have turned and buffered the crash, otherwise I wouldn't have survived." Her mother, seated next to her, didn't survive. Surviving on sweets she found at the site, Juliane waded downstream through knee-high water. Eventually, after 10 days, she found a boat moored near a small shelter. She poured gasoline from the fuel tank on her wounds to clear them of maggots and spent the night in the shelter. She said, "I didn't want to take the boat because I didn't want to steal it." The next morning, a small group of local fishermen discovered her and brought her to the village. It is thought that the thunderstorm updraft and thick foliage saved her. Our fifth person is Serbian woman Vesna Vulovic, who holds the Guinness World Record for surviving the highest fall without a parachute. She fell from 33,330 feet. Amazing. She was the sole survivor of the 28 passengers and crew after a briefcase bomb exploded in the baggage compartment of JAT Flight 367 on the 26th of January 1972. The McDonnell Douglas DC-9 crashed in Czechoslovakia. Air safety investigators attributed Vulovic's survival to her being trapped by a food cart in the DC-9's fuselage as it broke away from the rest of the aircraft and plummeted towards the ground. When the cabin depressurized, the passengers and flight crew were blown out of the aircraft and fell to their deaths. Investigators believe that the fuselage, with Vulovic pinned inside, landed at an angle in a heavily wooded and snow-covered mountainside which cushioned the impact. Her physicians concluded that her history of low blood pressure caused her to pass out quickly after the cabin depressurized and kept her heart from bursting on impact. She spent days in a coma and was hospitalized for several months. She suffered a fractured skull, 3 broken vertebrae, broken legs, broken ribs, and a fractured pelvis. These injuries resulted in her being temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. She made an almost complete recovery but continued to walk with a limp. Well, you would after those injuries, wouldn't you? She had no memory of the incident. She became a celebrity in Yugoslavia and was deemed a national hero. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like and subscribe.